Snappy people, welcome back to the Drama Stop channel. I am Tori. Thank you once again for being here today. I reached 30 subscribers, which makes me really, really happy. So keep on sharing our videos. Keep on sharing my videos. Keep on commenting and liking. I'd really, really appreciate it. Today, I'm just going to do a review on Netflix's 8-episode thriller 아무도 없는 숲속에서, or The Frog. I saw the trailer for this, I think last year when it came out, and I was like, oh, okay, a little thriller, a little bite-sized, mini-sized crime drama. Let me tap in, and I finally decided to binge it and review it today. I know the videos are late this week. Hurricanes have been in North America. There's just been a lot of weather and stuff going on, so yes. But you're still gonna get your 2 videos. Wow, look at that progress for me. Anyway, The Frog non-spoiler review is that I recommend it if you are in the mood for something quick, something easy to consume, and you haven't had a pretty decent thriller. I don't think it is a world-class changing drama. I think it has great acting. I think it has interesting storytelling, and I think it is well shot and well made. I don't think the writing is like top A++. I would give it like a B- for writing. I guess we'll start doing grades like that. I give it B- for writing. I give it B+, A- for acting. Editing wise, I'm kind of giving it a C, and we'll talk about that later. Rewatch value, a D. Once you've watched the drama once, it kind of takes any thrill out of it, unless like the actors are some of your faves and you want to see their performances again. But even then, I would say watch clips on YouTube and not rewatch the whole 8-episode show. So just to give you a small synopsis of what the drama is about, I'm just going to read this off of my drama list. It says, during the summer, in the present day, Jung Young-ha runs a vacation cottage located deep in the woods. His peaceful life is shaken by a sudden appearance of a mysterious woman named Yoo Sung-ah. In the early 2000s, Ko Sung-jun ran a motel similar to what Young-ha is doing. Ko Sung-jun and his family also lived there, but during the summer, something happened at this motel and Ko Sung-jun lost everything because of that. At that time, Yoon Bo-min worked as a police officer at the nearest police substation for the vacation cottage. 20 years later, Yoon Bo-min is transferred to the same police substation where she worked before, and she begins to work there as a chief. She enjoys solving things and begins to observe Jung Young-ha closely. So now, if you were like me and you kind of read the synopsis off of my drama list, you went into this drama having a different idea of what the plot is going to be. The synopsis on my drama list makes this seem like it is one location and we have the present storyline and a past storyline. That is not the case. We have 2 locations in the small town concerning the small town people. It is not the same pension. So like when I was first watching this, which was also kind of confusing, the first episode they don't like dictate when is the past and when is the present. You're just kind of watching the stories and you have to figure out by context clues of what is the past and the present. Usually I would look at technology to know what the past and the present is. And so in the present timeline with the pension owner, we're just gonna call him the pension owner. The pension owner, he drives a kind of old car. His other friend also drives a kind of old car. Even like at the laundry shop, I was like, even though this looks kind of modern, I cannot tell because they're older men. And so I'm like, I don't know what timeline we're in. And when we jump to the past with the motel family, it's not a pension, it's a motel. With the motel family, it wasn't until they started showing like they didn't really when they only had house phones, where I was like, oh, this is the past. And at this time I was still thinking, up until like episode 4 or 5, I was thinking that the locations of the pension in the future and the motel of the past were the same. They are not. We have 2 storylines going over here. We have a future storyline with a pension owner. He is running this pension. He lived in this pension with his wife who had cancer, and this pension is very important to him. He has a daughter who lives in Seoul, who is I think she's a childcare doctor, and then her husband is a pharmacist, and they live in Seoul. And then we have the motel family. They ran a motel in the early 2000s, and this is Yoon Kye-sung and his family. Right? And so these are 2 different storylines, but there's a definitely tied to them, which is serial killers. So we start this story just kind of walking through the daily lives of the pension owner and the motel family, and then suddenly something crazy happens to them. Now, once again, if you read the description of my drama list, and I don't know, let me actually check what the description is like on like Asian Wiki and things like that, because I know on Wikipedia it's gonna be like far more detailed. On Asian Wiki, I think it's the same thing. They're like, he lives in a vacation cottage, and they're like, he ran the same vacation cottage. No, they're two different locations in the same town. They just both happen to be what I like to call secondary victims. I don't know if this is an official term in crime theory or investigation, but in my eyes, there are primary victims of crime, which is the actual people who have passed away, their families, and the people who are like firsthand experiencing the tragedy and the loss of a crime. And then you have secondary victims. Secondary victims are the people who usually get the backlash of owning the location where the killing happened, having to come in contact with the killer but didn't do anything. If you were into true crime like I was a few years ago, you know there's a lot of secondary victims, eyewitnesses, people who find crime scenes. These are people that don't usually get the spotlight or the care or the worry that primary victims get, which is much needed. But this story, what the interesting part to me was that this is a story about secondary victims, people who were owning locations where heinous crimes are happening. Now, that being said, the two stories are different. And they're different on this. Let's walk through how they're different. So we have pension owner. Pension owner owns this pension. It's the last tie to him and his wife. And the drama does the red herring thing that all crimes drama do, which is make you think that this man is somehow sinister. They show like a big this blue laundry bag that could definitely fit a body being zipped up. They show you how he's kind of a recluse and how he really doesn't want people at his pension, even though, you know, we're definitely in the present day. So you should be online promoting on social media, on Instagram. He doesn't do that. He's running it. A close friend of his also runs another pension not too far away. And so you're watching this man and he doesn't really want customers, but of course he gets an unexpected customer. His friend, who also runs a pension, air conditioner goes out. So he asks, hey, can my customer stay here with you? Because, you know, I don't have air conditioning right now. This customer comes along with a child named Yoon, who's adorable. Yoon is carrying around this white little electronic puppy that doesn't work, but you can tell there's something off between the mother who comes in and Yoon. And it's because mother kind of seems depressed, kind of seems sad. She's giving like, I work a 9 to 9 and I don't have time for my son and we're on vacation, and it's, you know, just you know, trying to get away. She seems like a very strict, cold mother. And so the two men are happy to have this kid here. They set up the swimming pool for him, they swim with him, and you get to see that the pension owner has all of his wife's collectibles in a basement where there's a record because she collected records, and the client wants to listen to the records. And so, you know, things are kind of like but they're not like alarming, right? Things get a little more alarming if you watch crime thrillers as much as I have, when it starts to rain while the child is swimming and mother doesn't react. She doesn't be like, oh, I should go get my child, he needs to come in. That she doesn't react to that. He's kind of running around the pension by himself. But the way the pension is set up is that the pension owner lives in a little house off the side of the property, and there's the big pension house where the clients are. So she's there with her son by herself. So he goes into town the next morning. He waves her as she's leaving. He goes to clean up the pension. He picks up the record that he let her use, and there is blood on it. There's blood on it. So we're just going to pause there because that's how episode 1 ends. Back to our motel. Now we have our motel story, our motel family. Husband, wife, child. Off the back, we kind of see the husband kind of slacks when he's on night duty. He drinks, he wants to sleep, but he's like a really good motel owner. He's very nice to his clients. He gives them, you know, freebies, and, you know, it's like the young people that come, and this is in like the early 2000s. So it's not like this is a like picturesque IG motel, but it's good enough for the times. Him and his wife kind of have that kind of very domestic kind of back and forth bliss kind of thing going on. And so on a rainy night, once again, he sees a car kind of just sitting on the side of the road, and he's like, seems like a customer who's hesitating. I'm gonna go invite him in, give him the best room in the hotel, you know, because I'm trying to, you know, make up to my wife that I've been kind of slacking off. So, you know, more money, great times, goodness. Come to find out the next morning, the man that he let in the hotel was a serial killer, a famous serial killer that the cops have been looking for forever. He dismembered the body of a woman, and his wife found it that morning. And so basically this is a story of these secondary victims who are owning locations where heinous crimes have happened. Now, people in the motel called the cops. They called the cops. Cops were there. They're like, oh, this is definitely perp that we've been looking for. Of course, you know, their motel gets slandered, and every time this killer is mentioned in the news and the press, their motel picture shows up instead of the face of the killer, because you can't spread the face of the killer in Korean law, which is, you know, out of my bounds to say something about. It's dumb, but oh my God. And so this motel family in the early 2000s is dealing with the fact that their business, their lifeline, what is feeding them and their child is ruined. And it's not just ruined because it's always in the news. People in the town don't want to associate with them anymore. Like they did the killing. We'll comment on how this is a reflection of what I think is a particular part of Korean society in a second. Let's get back to Pension Owner in the future. Pension Owner in the future has picked up the record. He sees the blood and he starts looking around. Starts looking around. Where could this have happened? Where's all this blood coming from? He walks into the bathroom. Smell of bleach. That is a crime scene. Now, you, I, me, and the rest of the population, the general population, I assume, is going to pick up the phone and call the popo. Because my God, in heaven above, I am not about to be an accessory to murder. But what does Pension Owner do? Right, yes, you in the back with your hand up, yes, becomes an accessory to murder. I'm pretty sure this is after he realizes his friend's car was there all night, so he gets the black box footage and rewatches this woman leaving his pension alone with a carrier case and no child in sight. This is after he has drunk and slept over this and tried to wonder what to do. This man decides, I can't let my pension become like that motel or like any of the other places that have been tied to murder cases. So what does he do? He goes, re-cleans the pension, re-cleans the sheets, re-cleans the bathroom, wipes the blood off the record, puts the record up, puts it back where his wife's belongings are, and locks the door. Now, at this moment in time, I said, oh, this man is also a murderer and he murdered his wife. That's what I was thinking. Because I could not fathom any way that I would not have called the cops. Now, I'm in America, so it's a little different. But even then, I'm not about to, for murder, no, not for murder with suspect murder on mine. That's going to come back to me somehow, some way. I am in no way not gonna call the police. But this man is of course emotionally tied to this place and he doesn't want it to be ruined, I guess, and decides, we're gonna hide this. Nobody's gonna know what's happened. He cleans up, he takes the laundry to get done, and for months, maybe even a year or two, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And then one day, guess who rolls up in her brand new red Mercedes truck? The serial killer. Not only a serial killer, well, she's not a serial killer yet. The child murderer rolls back up again and is pretending like they have never met. Sir, what have you done? Because I, once again, even if you have only grown up with like the most random of crime shows on television, they always tell you the perpetrator returns to the scene of the crime. And you have basically mausoleumed her scene of the crime as part of your own house. She's coming back. Not only is she coming back, she's coming back to take over that house. Because now she sees, oh, you know what happened. Therefore, I don't have to pretend. Now we're in this together. And if you don't let me live here, things are going to happen. Like I'm going to threaten your child. Now, let's pause and go back to the past timeline. Past timeline people are going through it. We find out that mom was the one who found the crime scene. Dad also went up to the crime scene. So both of these two people are suffering with the PTSD of seeing a dismembered body, suffering with the isolation from their own society of being the people that own the pension. Then we have to tie in the fact that their son is being ostracized and bullied at school into bringing alcohol to minors and sleeping pills to minors. And so mom and dad are fighting. Well, mom is becoming an alcoholic. Dad is, doing his best to try and work and get through it and just forget it. He wants to sell the motel. She doesn't want to sell the motel because this is all they have left, if I'm remembering that correctly. And so they have this really great fight scene, I think, in I think it's episode 3, where they're like in the street and they're screaming at each other. He's like, it's my fault. I'm the one who brought him in. And she's like, are you done crying? Because I'm done. Because she's also like, he works at a lumberyard. She's waitressing at a restaurant. And there are the mothers of other children that go to her son's school that are talking about her and whispering about her. She fights with her boss and there's just like a lot of emotional stress. And honestly, obviously therapy wasn't as big then as it is now. And so there's just a lot of emotional tension and there's nowhere for this family to go to because they're being so ostracized. At this point in time, this is like episode 3 or 4. I'm not interested in the pension owner story. You definitely know this woman murdered a child and covered it up. I honestly don't care what happens to you. Like, I'm so sorry. to your daughter and your family or whatever, but I don't even think your wife, who spent her last days there, would have wanted you to cover up the murder of a child, just to have this pension untouched, right? So I'm far more invested in the story of the past of this family dealing with the fallout of the press constantly using their motel and, them being ostracized. We found out the son is being bullied. Dad ends up fighting the families at the school. Things are just getting worse and worse. Mom finally gets it together though. She's like, the motel might be sold. Okay, cool. I'm going to stop drinking. We're going to figure this out. And then things are getting more and more tense in the present between the pension owner and the child murderer. The pension owner and the child murderer are going back and forth. She has painted the house, moved all her stuff in, and he's trying to figure out a way to get this woman out of his house. And so he starts booking people, he starts booking families, and that means she has to give up the key. He calls the police to deal with it. And unfortunately, one of the dumb male police officers ends up being caught in her Black Widow trap, ends up, having a fling with this woman, and encroaches on the pension owner's properties by saying, oh, you agreed to let her live here, you should let her, being all bossy about it for no reason, which I don't understand. I'm like, you're dumb. If he goes and tells your captain, it's over for you. I don't know. That was one part of the story where I was like, I don't understand this point, but whatever. So all of this time that's happening, there is a third character that is the connecting chain between these two stories, and that is the police officer. She was a rookie cop in the early 2000s when the case happened at the motel, and now she's a veteran, serious crimes detective who has come back to this station. I guess she kind of never got over her first case. Now, here's the thing about the cop. They call her Sule, which is Sule from Sule Chapki, or hide and seek in Korean. The reason they call her Sule is because she has a really good instinct for finding and catching criminals. And they tell you how she got her name in the beginning because they show you that she was kind of excited to meet the killer. There's a part of the episode in the past where she meets the serial killer along with the motel owner, and the detective at the time was just like, oh, you're excited about crime. You're excited to catch people. Crime scenes excite you. And I'm like, are we turning her into a weird murderino type of person? But it just seems like some people have just an innate, I guess. I can't explain it without it coming off as creepy as they wanted it to be. She has an innate hunch for criminals. So Sule, as in the person who is it, she is it, and she finds people. She goes out and catch criminals. Listen, love that for her because she could have ended up being one, but she's like, you know what? I'm gonna do this for the betterment of the society. I'm gonna be a detective. And so she is in both storylines. She is the connecting bridge. And so she has come back and she's starting to see the pension owner who comes to the police station at once, but then goes out. He comes to the police station again, and the child murderer rams into his car because he has the CCTV footage and was going to present it to the police. And so now every single time at the beginning of the story where he was like, I'm going to the cops, she's like, try me if you want to. She smashes into his car and then she threatens to harm his daughter. He not flies to Seoul, but drives to Seoul and sees her across the street at his daughter's pharmacy. So he's like, I don't know what to do anymore. Maybe you should have called the cops in the first place. These are the consequences of your actions. But once again, these are secondary victims dealing with the crimes differently. And so we finally get to a place where he's fighting back. The police officer also comes to his senses. I don't remember why he comes to his senses. I think it's because he overheard his captain talking about it's not looking for what's there, it's looking for what's not there. And so he realizes something when he walks into that house about shoes or something, or that she doesn't have her shoes, or he opens the shoe cabinet and in the duffel bag is a voice recording. That's what it was. Just to rewind 1 second. The man, the accessory to murder, the pension owner, sat down with the serial killer and actually ate the food she cooked for him. Dumb. I'm sorry. As a former crime junkie, that was stupid because she obviously put sleeping pills in it and she could have killed you, but she didn't because she wants to toy with you. So they have dinner again, and this second dinner is where she admits to being the woman who was here last year, the woman who was with the child, basically admitting to murder. And he had that on file, and that's what he was going to give to the cops. Yes, that's why she rammed her car into him. That's why she got the evidence, right? And then the police officer, who is now under her spell as this little, trophy boy, whatever, to bully this pension owner, which is so dumb because you could lose your job. He opens the bag. He hears the voice recording. He runs away from the pension on foot. How did you get there in the first place? What? runs with the pigeon on foot. What does she do? Mow him down with a car. Back to what I was talking about. So this is the second body for her, right? One child, now police officer. She's just reaching for the stars, right? And so all of this time he had been away from the pension. And so when this second murderer took place, while he was away from the pension, we are finally connecting the past storyline and the future storyline in the present. Now, I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought we were constantly just going to get these stories told from two different time perspectives until we hit episode 5. And episode 5 is, I think it's episode 5 or 6. Let me check real quick. It's really where I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was so not expecting this part of the story. It's episode 6. It's called Dad Will Come Get You. So basically, the pension owner is at this crux where he's like, I have no idea what to do. And so in the news about this time in the news, there is word about the motel serial killer and how he is going to get to visit his grandmother. And it's about how somebody's going to write his biography, and the person who was going to write his biography basically died. And there was a suspicious person that came out of his house, and we don't know if that's the killer or not. But the person that was going to write his biography was found dead. Yes. And so then suddenly chanyeol shows up on my screen, and I was like, hi, Big Ear Baby, what are you doing here? I don't remember seeing him in the teaser, so when he was on my screen, I was like, oh. And then he has on glasses, and the only other character that we know who's had on glasses was not Shiyun, which is the motel owner's child. The child who was bullied, the child who was, giving sleeping pills and alcohol to other, his bullies and things like that. This child is now grown. Okay. And we find out that he's doing something suspicious. He's getting packages delivered to the grocery store of the friend of his dad. He's staying at this motel, but what we find out more than anything, that when he was a child, the night the murder took place at the hotel, he ran in to the serial killer with a unconscious woman over his shoulder. Now, remember when I said that the dad uses to slack off and drink and fall asleep on the night shift? He fell asleep that night shift, and the murderer just quietly walked out of the building, went to his car, brought in an unconscious woman, and then quietly went back upstairs. And that's all we had known until episode 6, and we know that the son and the serial killer met on the stairs. And so this child then went home terrified because he saw that and his mother found it that morning. So needless to say, this family, I don't even know if I can call them secondary victims at this point. Yeah, I think we still have to call them secondary victims because the first victim is the person who died, but has been through it all. And so then we're watching this child, the motel owner's child. Who is his name? He deserves a name. Only the children of the story deserve a name. We have Shiyun, the baby that died in the pension, and then we have Gi-ho, which is the Gu family, the people who own the motel. And so Gi-ho is basically has a sniper rifle. Yeah, he has a sniper rifle in South Korea where guns are not allowed. Don't know how. Listen, the man has a sniper rifle, and we see him practicing shooting something and running away. And so then we learn that his father's best friend, the mother, is sick at a hospital, and there's a lady on a ventilator next to them. And at first I was very confused about what's happening, because while Gi-ho is practicing, he's talking to somebody, and it took me forever to realize he is talking to his father's best friend who is in the hospital room. He is practicing shooting from a window into the hospital and then running to the hospital. I was so confused. I was like, 1, there can only be one op, the serial killer. 2, how are we getting away? Because you're running to the scene of the crime, right? At first, I didn't realize it was the hospital they were shooting into until much later, because he practiced running into the hospital with the gun strapped onto him. Of course, it's in a bag to make it look like an instrument or whatever. But I was like, this is confusing as hell. But you're asking me, Tori, how does this tie into the pension owner? Well, like I said, the pension owner is looking for advice. So with all this news about the serial killer's biography and him getting to meet his mother before she dies, all in the news, he starts to look up this story, right? And he goes and finds Gi-ho's dad, the motel owner, who is at a retirement community, like an old folks home. And he seems to have dementia. He's confused. He still thinks he owns a motel. Like, he's cleaning the rooms like it is a motel. And then the dad comes in to talk to him, and they talk about wanting to protect something. I don't remember the exact bits of their conversation, but it triggers a thought in the dad's head. He's like, do you want me to get my guy to help you? My guy said he's going to he's going to make everything better. He's going to kill him. And so when the dad hears that, he covers his mouth. But basically, we learn that he calls his son my guy because he doesn't remember that that's his son, right? His mind is still in those early 2000s. And now you're probably wondering what else could have possibly happened for the dad to get to the state that he's in. Well, mom could not handle the trauma anymore. They tried to sell the hotel. She cleaned, and every time she goes in that room to clean it up, she sees images of the dismembered body. And so she unalived herself, and her husband found her. And so that sent him into a mental breakdown, and Giho has been, seemingly it seems like he's been raised by the best friend and his best friend's mother, the grandmother. So basically, episode 6 is my favorite because of the scene where they take him out. Because what happens is that the pension owner ends up, he's found the dad. He knows the son is going to do this. He follows the son after he leaves to visit the dad or something. I don't know when he follows him from. He follows the son to his hideout, right? Which is like alarming that someone could follow you. You didn't know. Follows the son to his hideout, basically bangs him up. He's like, look, I'm not the cops. I'm just here for something. And he gets a call from his uncle, basically the dad's best friend. And it's like, the killer is coming. You need to hurry up. He ties him up. He leaves him and he goes. He shoots. Now, here's the thing. The woman on the ventilator, who is his mother, knows that these people are planning this. And she keeps trying to hint at her son what is happening. And he turns his head at the wrong time. So when he shoots through the window, it doesn't strike him. He shoots through the window. He books it. We know he's going towards the hospital. He books it. They leave this serial killer in the room with one cop. And what does that do? Take his out. I was just like, y'all are dumb. But this man has been on good behavior. So it's like, oh, the cop was already being nice to him, which is like beyond me. You can be cordial. You ain't gotta be nice to this was already being nice to him. He beat that man to smithereens. And so then the uncle tries to stop him and the grandma tries to stop him. And just in time when grandma is about to get hit, pop! Whoo! That was a great shot. I had to replay that scene because it was listen, I'm sorry. I'm an action girly. So I love action scenes. And I love well choreographed action scenes because the tension was rising. Because it's not like his father's best friend is agile and strong. They're old. Everybody's over the age of 60. And grandma is definitely up in her 80s and 90s. And she tries to stop him. He goes to pick up a chair to hit her. And that non-lethal shot through the shoulder, I said, baby, how long have you been practicing? That was chef's kiss. Non-lethal shot through the shoulder and then looks him in the eye. He says, who are you? You know what? I actually have to find the line. I have to find the line because it was so good.
Ghost.
We'll have to insert this thing, but ghost is a term that they use in LOL. I want to say League of Legends, whatever game when he was a child, he was going to get his game board or game book. And when they meet on the stairs, the serial killer says, oh, you should be a ghost. And ghosts can't, I guess in the game, the ghosts are invisible and you can't see them. And so you're a ghost. So I'm going to pretend like I didn't see you. And you're going to pretend like you didn't see me. And he walks by with the victim. And so he says to him, ghost, and smiles and just pops one in the head. And I was like, oh, you know what? Listen, in storytelling, for most things, I'm all for violent revenge, especially for a dude who's already killed 5 people. I know it's up to the state. I know it's up to the law. Death penalty is not going to happen in Korea. He was going to be in jail his whole life. And he was already ready to leave. He beat up that police officer. I don't even know if that man survived. So take him out. I was like, well, that got interesting. That got interesting real quick. And so he ends up taking him out. His plan is successful. There is no fault in his plan. And he goes back to his hideout where the pension owner has released himself from his restraints. And he's like, you can go, you can leave. And he's about to unalive himself because I'm like, well, I don't know how else you get away with this crime. And the pension owner is like, no, I'm not going to let you kill yourself. You don't deserve to die. I was like, period. I don't know how y'all gonna save him. Like, he have to turn himself in at this point. But that's the storytelling. We'll get to it in a second. So basically, what had happened was the pension owner was just like, let's burn everything you have on. I'll take the gun. You were with me the whole night. That's your alibi. And so that's how that episode ends. That episode ends with a very emotional phone call between father and son, where he's basically having the same conversation he had with him the day after the motel incident, where he's like, I'm gonna come and get you, be nice to your aunt, and and he apologizes for being mean to him and yelling at him. And so now they're accomplices in a crime, but he's like, and I think the pension owner was just like, you're right, I can't run away from this anymore. I'm gonna have to kill that bitch. I was like, at this point I was like, well, hey, she already killed 2 people, possibly a third, because his best friend, who was in the hospital for like a broken leg or something, has been told by him that I have a unruly customer who won't leave. And so he goes to the pension to like find him and deal with her, and she like attacks him. She hits him with a shovel or something like that. And I'm just like, okay, this is body number 3. At this point, this is body number 3, and I don't know how many more people this woman's gonna hurt before she gets caught, right? And so then we have episode 7, which is where we finally get a backstory into the child murderer. Of course, I have no empathy, no sympathy for her. She is the daughter of a rich man. She's an artist, and she got married, or she fell in love with a man who already had a kid. And guess whose kid that was? Who already kid? She took that kid on vacation and never returned. And so that's what happened there. And then she had her dad put her husband, ex-fiance, whatever, because obviously once he found out that his child was gone, she had him put in jail for domestic abuse. It's not swell. So this whole episode is basically about her crashing out. She goes back to Seoul. Her dad it's just a bunch of details about how she's a spoiled brat that has always gotten her way. And so when she doesn't get her way, she resorts to violence. And so because the pension owner had been acting weird, the cop had been watching him. She stumbles across the unruly customer. She's like, my spidey senses are tingling, starts to follow her and basically figures out she's unhinged. There's a whole little sequence where she's in the grocery store and she's like crazily shopping for stuff. She's just filling her basket with everything. And then she stops and she starts to fill her basket with tape and bleach. And the cop is like, well, that's a killing kit. That is a killing kit. If I wasn't suspicious of you before, I am definitely suspicious of you now. And so she has this whole thing in Seoul. It's episode 7 where his daughter finally pulls up because her dad's been out of contact, is not contacting her. It was weird when he came to visit in Seoul. Nobody's answering the phone of the people that love him and live near him. And so she goes to the pension to see what's up, comes in contact with this unruly customer, which was, I think, an interesting character trait for the daughter. The daughter is not dismayed, not scared, not terrified of this woman. I don't know what she's been through in life, but they both sitting at the table having a little chit chat, and she's like, oh, so you're what's causing my dad's stress. Get the F up out of my house. And like she like grabs her hair, they're fighting. She figures out, I think the child murderer tells her that her uncle or her dad's best friend is tied up. They have a whole full blown out. Unfortunately, she drank the flipping juice that the child murderer gave her and she passes out, but not before beating that broad's butt. She was very good. Really did love that. And so basically the pension owner shows up with the rifle and it's like, this is it. I'm done now. Let's hash this out. And so it basically becomes the chaser, becomes the chasey. He doesn't care about the well-being of the pension anymore. He's breaking down walls. He's like, your life is about to end. And so she's like, we can negotiate. I have your daughter. She's like, I don't care. He's like, you tell me where my daughter is now. I'm gonna unalive you. And so they come to a compromise. And she takes him to where the daughter is, only for it to be a trap. And I was like, thank God. Because the cop at this point is like, you need to tell me what's going on. Or he's like, you need to tell me what's going on. And the cops had already found his daughter before. And so there was a signal between him and the cop through the phone. And so she gets arrested. And that should be the end of the drama. It's not. It's not. Rich daddy gets her out of jail. Daughter, who was pregnant, goes to the emergency room. Her and the baby survive. Bless the gods. But we find out that there was another body of the police officer in the cornfields. They find that. Our cop has to fight with the bureaucracy of the police office because they don't want to indict this woman who is obviously a murderer. But anyway, dad gets child murderer out of jail. Child murderer goes back to the pension because she's ready to hop, countries, only for her ex to show up. And he is the one with the rifle now. And he is definitely ready to unalive her because she killed his son. And she's like, do you really think you're going to survive? My dad is going to, put you in jail forever. And he's like, who do you think told me you were here? Who do you think let me out of jail? He's like, you're not the only one with your daddy's lawyers. And she cannot believe that her dad would do that to her. So she calls her father. And on the phone with her father, we find out that on her laptop are selfies of her in the bathroom in the crime scene of where she unalived Yoon, his son, the child. And so I'm like, okay, she's a dumb criminal. She's a dumb criminal who was solely relying on the fact that her daddy's rich and would save her. And her daddy's like, I'm not doing that anymore because this is 2 bodies already. It could have been a 3rd, could have been a 4th with the daughter. So we are basically at the last stance with the pension owner, the ex, the police officer, and the child murderer. The child murderer basically tries to get the ex to kill the pension owner because she's like, look, this man knew about it all along. He didn't say nothing. And so they're on this back and forth. Cop shows up and says, I need you to put the gun down. Things are happening. Basically, the cop misfires. The child murderer runs out the back door. The ex runs out the back door. The pension owner runs out the back door. We hear a shot and we find out that the ex basically shot child murderer in the head and she fell into the pool and died. The police officer is not done investigating. She investigates everything. She comes across Gi-ho in his hideout and she was like, it might not have made sense to other people. I don't know why. It's very obvious to me. But she's like, it made sense to me. The ex will not tell us where he found the gun, but that gun was also used to shoot the serial killer. And, your grandmother and uncle were sharing a room with his mother. And so I put 2 to 2 together equal 4. Nobody else put 2 and 2 together equal 4. But I guess that's just the nature of bureaucracy. And so that's just how the drama ends. The pension owner and Gi-ho become friends. We never find Yoon's body. We don't know where he's buried. And that's it, which is kind of crazy. That being said, I give this drama a B-. There are several reasons why I give this drama a B-. 1, if you're going to have a female serial killer, she needs to be 1, crazy enough or 1, trained enough to take over a man with strength. There are several scenes in this drama where the pension owner overcomes her with strength and could have easily killed her or restrained her or done something to, flip the situation, but they don't utilize that. Like, she's crazy, but she's not as physically prowess or crazy enough to take him out, which is kind of concerning to me. She basically runs into the officer to take him out. And so that was kind of a writing loophole for me where I was like, ugh. The most unwarranted aspect of this drama, which might not be unwarranted for you, but for me, it was bothering, was that the drama uses extremely overtly intense music. Exhibit A. Right? Exhibit B. Okay. Overly intense music that, in my opinion, zaps all of the intensity out of the scene. Like, every single bit of intensity that could have been used with the lighting and the writing and the acting gets zapped out because this music is just like, oh my god, look, it's thriller, look at his intensity, and I don't feel it anymore. You've taken the moment away with this overbearing music that is used in almost every intense scene, and it was unnecessary part of the editing, which I think would have been much better with different music. Right. So I think that the music choice of this drama was completely wrong. Because they also tried to do the Jordan Peele thing where they use a song that's not a thriller, that's not associated with horror in this show, which I thought was cool. And I was like, you could have used that tension instead of the intense music that they chose to use for the rest of the drama. They only use it in the first 2 episodes. And in those scenes, I think it works. When they have that snap scene in episode 2, from her with the kid to her standing covered in blood, I was like, whoa. But after that, it takes out a lot of the intensity of the scene. Another reason why this is like a B- or a C+ is because I don't think the writing does a stellar job of making the present time storyline interesting enough or make me care about the pension owner. For me, at least. For me, when you are an accessory to a child murderer, I am just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care what happens to you. I don't. The only time that I kind of felt for him was when he finally gave up at the end and talked to the police officer. He was worried about his daughter. That's the only time I kind of felt any emotions for him. I was much more highly invested in the storyline of the past of the Motel family, of the Gu family, and how they were dealing with this heinous scenes that they have witnessed and been associated with, and the ostracization of it. I think that was a really interesting commentary on a particular part of Korean society, which is what I say is the herd mentality. Nowadays, I feel like younger generations are trying to break that kind of everybody has to act and do and sound and look alike type of things aesthetically. I don't know if they're doing it societal wise, but like in the early 2000s, it was definitely more like anybody who is different, even in the slightest. This is not even like physically or mentally, emotionally different, but like, oh, your motel was where the killer happened, so now you're the killer motel family. And we and the evil people of that society at the time decided to pick on that and abuse this family, and they were getting abused by the journalists and abused by their peers. And it's just like, that was a much more compelling story to me, and how each different faction of this family was dealing with it. The mother who was turning to alcohol, and then she tried to turn around and be strong for her family, but ultimately could not escape the darkness that was witnessing this crime. The dad who tried his hardest to be the head of the family and, make money and find a solution, all of this stuff, only for him to lose his wife, the love of his life, and then find her body, which is also terrifying. And then lose, not being able to recognize his son. And then the son, who kind of probably blames himself for not telling his parents when he came across the killer on the steps, or, and then trying not to be an emotional burden on them by not telling them about being bullied at school, and who carried that burden into adulthood up until the point where he decided that the only way that I can free my father from this torment, free myself from this torment, is to end this man's life, and then in mine, because I can't take it anymore. And so I think it's also a commentary on how not people consume crime, but how people react to criminal cases, and how, unfortunately, because of a lot of popular content, podcasts, videos, the way we consume crime is much different than, well, it's not different, it's just more amplified than it was in the past. Because even in the 70s, 60s, the 80s, people were all enthralled with the lives of serial killers, which is like really sad, and really like a reflect on our society of why we are enthralled with the perpetrators of crime and not the victims of the crime, and why there is no sympathy for victims of crime. It's a bigger story about that. Of course, the story doesn't go in depth as I would have hoped it to be. I don't think I had extremely high hopes for this drama. It just felt like it was like, ooh, thriller. Ooh, look at all this different stuff, which is fine for like a really short 8-episode crime show. If this show is supposed to be like 16 episodes, I would expect more depth of emotion, but it gets a B-. I don't think it's not worth watching. I think it's worth watching. It has very good acting. The actors were nothing about the acting was ever a fault for me. Chanyeol did a great job. Yoon Sang playing himself at different ages was great. The only character choice that I had a question about was the daughter not being in the least bit slightest taken aback by this woman being violent and cruel to her father. Like, I would have loved just a tiny insight on her life, of what she had been through, for her not to react in like, oh my god, this is scary type of way of, oh my god, I'm finna beat you. I'm finna take you out kind of way. That being said, I think The Frog is worth watching. I think if you're in the mood for a quick little thriller, a quick little bite-sized piece of crime, I think it's worth it. But yeah, it's a B- for me. It is on Netflix. The episodes are only like, I want to say like 50 minutes an episode, which is great. For most thriller storytellings, the first 2 episodes are kind of boring, but if you can make it to episode 3 and 4, you'll make it to 5 and 6, and then 4, 7, and 8. It kind of picks up after that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, enjoyed this recap. I thought the story was cool. I'm definitely doing a Melody of a Golden Age review. That'll probably be the next video essay we get. I'm gonna finish Love Next Door. I'm debating whether to recap the rest of the series or just do a review on the last 4 episodes. I might just do a review. And I'm going to be watching You're My Lover Friend. So be on the lookout for those 3 videos. K-drama news videos will be bi-weekly. And I have some cool stuff planned for Halloween. We're gonna do my first My Beef video. I'm not gonna tell you what drama it's about yet, but it's basically where I take a deep dive into a series that I love and hate and tell you why I don't like it and tell you why I do like it. So yes, but until next time, my name is Tori. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I will see you in the next one.